All right, ready to ditch the textbook and actually speak some English?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, awesome. So we're diving into Learn English Fast, Beginner Tips for Fluency.
Yeah, this guide's all about action.
Yeah, exactly. Not just theory.
It's interesting.
Like less talk, more action, right?
Yeah. It actually tackles those sneaky roadblocks that trip so many learners up.
Mm.
Like, why do we get stuck in grammar?
Oh,
Or
totally.
like freeze up when we actually need to speak?
Yeah, and it flips the script on some of the traditional methods too.
Right.
Forget drilling verb conjugations, for hours on end. This guide says to just start speaking from day one,
Yeah, I love that.
even if you only know like a handful of words.
I mean, imagine if someone told you that, to write a novel
Yeah,
before you even learn the alphabet.
that's kind of what we do with languages sometimes.
It's true. The guide really digs into the 3 reasons why people hit those language learning walls.
Okay, lay it on me.
The first one is we prioritize grammar over speaking practice, which can be super intimidating, especially for beginners.
It's like being scared of crashing your bike so you never actually learn how to write it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
That can be totally paralyzing.
Oh, tell me about it.
But making mistakes is actually essential to learning any skill, especially language.
I once tried ordering a coffee in Italian, and I accidentally asked for a cat with milk.
Oh, no.
I still cringe, but hey, at least I learned the words for cat and milk that day.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
The third reason that the guide points out is just inconsistent practice.
Right.
Trying to cram in hours of study once a week just doesn't cut it.
It's so true.
It's way more effective to dedicate even 15 minutes each day.
Yeah, consistency is key. The guide compares language learning to building a muscle.
Right.
You wouldn't expect to get ripped by lifting weights just once a month.
Totally. Okay, so let's dive into the good stuff, the actual tips.
Yeah.
This is where the guide gets really practical.
Okay, hit me.
Tip number 1. Speak English from day 1.
Okay, I know. It sounds bold,
I know.
especially if you're just starting out.
Right.
But this guide makes a super compelling argument for why it's so important.
It all comes down to rewiring your brain. When you start speaking early, even if it's just basic phrases, you're creating those neural pathways and training your brain to think in English.
Okay, so the guide even suggests, talking to yourself.
Yes.
I know it might sound a little silly,
Which I
but
love.
yeah, it can feel a little silly at first.
Totally.
But it gets you comfortable with the sounds of the language, and you can start forming sentences without overthinking it.
And the more you do it, the less intimidating it becomes to actually speak with others.
Right, right.
So the guide also emphasizes the importance of finding speaking partners, whether it's in person or online.
Yes.
There are tons of language exchange platforms where you can connect with native English speakers.
Oh, I love those. Those are game changers. You get to practice with real people.
Exactly.
Learn from their natural way of speaking.
Totally. The guide even mentions the shadowing technique,
Oh, yeah.
which I've heard is super effective.
I've heard about that too.
So shadowing involves listening to a sentence in English
Uh-huh.
and immediately repeating it, trying to match the pronunciation and intonation
Okay.
as closely as possible.
So it's like an auditory workout for your English muscles.
It is.
I actually tried that once with a TED Talk I really liked, and it was surprisingly challenging, but I could feel myself getting better at picking up, the nuances in pronunciation.
Yeah,
It's like training your ear to really hear the music of the language.
exactly. Speaking of music, that leads perfectly into the next tip, which is learn English with movies and YouTube.
Okay, I love this one. This one's all about making learning fun. Instead of slogging through textbooks,
Yeah.
you're watching engaging content and picking up the language naturally.
It's a brilliant way to expose yourself to real conversations, natural pronunciation, a wide range of vocabulary.
Yeah.
The guide suggests watching movies with subtitles,
Okay.
repeating phrases that catch your attention, and following English YouTubers who create content you actually enjoy.
I love that it emphasizes finding content that you're actually interested in.
Yeah.
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
It should be fun.
Exactly. So what's next on this list of unconventional wisdom?
Well, the guide tackles a common trap that many learners fall into,
Oh, okay.
which is memorizing words in isolation.
Uh-huh.
It emphasizes the importance of learning in context.
Because, knowing a word and actually being able to use it in a sentence, those are two very different things.
Exactly. So instead of just memorizing the word beautiful,
Right.
try learning it as part of a phrase.
Okay.
Like the sunset is beautiful,
Okay.
or she has beautiful eyes.
Okay.
This gives the word meaning and helps you visualize how you would use it in a real-world situation.
It's so true. I remember trying to learn French vocabulary by just writing down lists of words with their English translations,
Right.
and it just didn't stick. It
Oh,
was only when I started reading French novels and seeing those words in action that they really started to click.
exactly. And reading is a fantastic way to expand your vocabulary naturally.
Yeah, I love reading.
The guide suggests exploring easy English books or blogs, starting with something that genuinely interests you.
Yes, it's all about making it enjoyable, right? Because if you're having fun, you're way more likely to stick with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got speak from day one, learn with movies and YouTube, and learn in context. What's the next game changer?
This one is a little bit more mental,
Okay.
but equally important. Think in English, not your native language.
Ah, yes. The dreaded translation trap. I used to do this all the time, mentally translating everything back and forth,
Yeah,
and it really slowed me down.
it's like trying to run a race with a backpack full of rocks.
So true.
It's just exhausting and inefficient.
Yes. Okay, so how do we break free from this translation habit?
The guide suggests starting small by thinking in English about simple things throughout your day. For example, you could name objects around you in English.
Yeah.
Table, chair, window.
Okay, so it's almost like giving your brain little workouts, in English.
Exactly. The more you do it, the stronger those mental muscles become.
I love that. And as you get comfortable, you can start practicing like simple questions in your mind.
Yes.
What am I going to eat for lunch? Or what time is my next meeting?
Exactly. I've even heard people recommend narrating your actions in English as you go about your day.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm brushing my teeth or I'm walking to the store.
Interesting. Yeah.
It might feel a bit strange at first, but it gets you in the habit of forming thoughts directly in English
Gotcha.
without relying on translation as a crutch.
All right, so we've covered 4 powerful tips so far. Speak from day one, learn with movies and YouTube, learn in context, and think in English. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Okay, the final tip is, and it brings everything together, make English part of your daily life.
Okay, so this sounds like it's about creating an immersive environment, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about finding those little opportunities to weave English into your daily routine.
Okay, so what are some specific ways that we can actually do this?
The guide has a bunch of suggestions, like change your phone's language to English, listen to English podcasts while you're commuting, follow English-speaking social media accounts,
Right.
or even watch cooking shows in English.
I love the idea of finding ways to incorporate English into things you already enjoy doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a chore.
Right. You can even make simple changes like writing your to-do list in English or singing along to your favorite English songs.
This really resonates with me. It's about making English a part of your world rather than trying to fit it into like a rigid study schedule.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more natural and effortless it will become to think, speak, and understand English.
Makes sense.
It's all about creating those consistent points of contact with the language.
All right, so we've unpacked 5 key tips from Learn English Fast, beginner tips for fluency. But we're not done yet. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to take a closer look at those personal challenges that can sometimes, derail our progress a little bit.
Yeah, we'll explore strategies for overcoming those obstacles, whether it's fear of speaking, pronunciation difficulties, or just, finding the time to practice consistently.
We'll also dive into additional resources that can help you tailor your learning experience and make this journey even more rewarding, so stay tuned.
See you soon.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Learn English Fast, beginner tips for fluency. We've covered a lot of ground, but now it's time to get, personal.
Yeah, because as much as we love all those inspiring tips and strategies,
Yeah.
there's another side to language learning, right?
Yeah.
Like the challenges, the roadblocks,
Yeah.
those moments when we feel like giving up.
And the guide doesn't shy away from that.
Doesn't it?
It actually encourages you to, pinpoint
Yeah.
what your biggest personal challenge is
Exactly.
in learning English, because
Right.
acknowledging those hurdles is the first step to overcoming them.
I love how the guide frames these challenges as opportunities for personalized learning.
Yeah, it's not about
Right,
a
yeah.
one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. It's about tailoring your approach to meet your unique needs.
Totally. So let's say, for example, your nemesis is pronunciation.
Okay.
You've been working on those tricky vowel sounds, maybe some consonant clusters.
Right.
But you still feel like your accent is holding you back a little.
Well, the good news is there are tons of resources
Yeah.
specifically designed to help you master English pronunciation.
Oh, awesome.
There are YouTube channels with pronunciation tutorials, websites with interactive exercises, and even online coaches who can provide personalized feedback.
I've also heard that, like, even just recording yourself speaking English and then listening back can be really helpful.
Yeah.
It allows you to hear yourself more objectively and identify areas where you might need to focus your practice.
Absolutely. And the guide reminds us there's no shame in seeking out extra help.
Totally.
It's actually a sign of strength and commitment to your learning journey.
So pronunciation is one hurdle, but what if, grammar is your biggest challenge?
Right.
Those verb tenses, the articles, the prepositions,
I know.
it can feel like a minefield sometimes.
Yeah, but don't worry. You're not alone in feeling that way.
Okay.
And the guide suggests a fantastic strategy. Leverage the power of language learning apps.
Oh, yeah. Those apps have come such a long way. I remember trying some of the early versions years ago, and they were pretty basic.
I know.
But now they offer interactive lessons,
Yeah.
personalized feedback, and even speech recognition to help you with your pronunciation.
What's really cool is that many of these apps use something called spaced repetition algorithms.
Well, I've heard of those, but I'll admit I'm not really sure how they work.
Okay, so spaced repetition is a learning technique that involves reviewing material at increasing intervals.
Okay.
So essentially, the app learns your strengths and weaknesses
Uh-huh.
and then presents you with, words or grammar concepts right before you're about to forget them.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a super smart flashcard system that just knows exactly when your brain needs a nudge?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And this technique has been proven to be incredibly effective for long-term retention. Some popular language learning apps that use spaced repetition include Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise.
Oh, yeah. I've heard good things about all of those. It's amazing how technology can support our learning in such a personalized way now.
Right.
But what if your challenge isn't the technical skills,
Right.
but more about finding the time and the motivation to practice consistently?
Yeah. That's a really common struggle. And the guide emphasizes that consistency is key
Right.
to making real progress.
Oh, really?
But it also acknowledges that everyone's life is different,
Uh-huh.
and finding the time can be challenging.
Yeah. So what's the solution?
Well, it's not about adding more hours to your day, but rather about being strategic and creative with the time you do have.
Okay.
Remember, even just 15 minutes of focused practice each day can make a big difference.
Right. It's about finding those pockets of time
Yeah,
and making them count. Listening to an English podcast during your commute
exactly.
or watching a short English language video while you're making dinner or something.
Exactly. And what's great is that there are so many engaging resources out there
Right.
that make learning feel less like work and more like enjoyment.
Totally.
The guide also highlights the power of community
Yeah.
and finding support from fellow learners.
That's such an important point. Connecting with others who are on the same journey,
Yep.
incredibly motivating. Have you ever tried a language exchange or joined an online language learning community?
Yeah, I have. It's a game changer. It's amazing how much you can learn from simply chatting with someone who speaks English as their native language. You pick up on those subtle nuances, idioms, slang that you might not find in a textbook.
And it's also just a great way to build your confidence
Yes.
and reduce that fear of speaking.
Totally. Because you're in a supportive environment where everyone's learning and making mistakes together.
Yeah, for sure.
And the guide reminds us that mistakes are not failures. They're valuable learning opportunities.
Oh, I love that.
Every time you stumble, you're actually getting closer to fluency.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, exploring ways to address those personal challenges that can sometimes feel like roadblocks in our language journey. But remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Well,
It's all about finding what works best for you, experimenting with different strategies,
yeah.
and seeking out support when you need it.
And before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to encourage you to take a moment and reflect on your own language learning journey.
That's a good idea.
What are your biggest challenges?
Yeah.
What resources or strategies have you found most helpful? And what steps can you take today to move closer to fluency?
Yeah, because every effort you make, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction.
Totally.
And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore some bonus resources and strategies
Yeah.
that can help you personalize your learning experience even further and make this journey even more rewarding. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Learn English Fast, beginner tips for fluency. We've explored the guides, like core tips. We've
Yeah.
tackled those personal challenges, but
Mm.
now I'm excited for this part. We're going beyond the basics. We're going to uncover some like hidden gems, those extra resources, those extra strategies
Right.
that can really like take your learning to the next level.
It's like we've mastered the foundation of the house, and now we're adding in those personal touches that make it a home.
I love that.
Yeah, we're talking about resources that might not be in every guide,
Yeah.
but can truly like transform your learning experience.
Exactly. And I'm excited because this part's all about embracing the fun, the creative side of language learning. So first up, let's talk about cultural immersion.
Cultural immersion. This is where things get really interesting. It's about experiencing the language in its natural habitat,
Yes.
so to speak, absorbing not just the words,
Right.
but the culture they're embedded in.
Yeah, and you don't need a plane ticket to do it.
No, you don't.
There are so many ways to immerse yourself in English-speaking cultures
Yes.
right from home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about, all the amazing English language content at your fingertips. You can watch movies and TV shows,
Yes.
listen to podcasts, read books and articles, and even connect with native speakers online.
I'm a big fan of podcasts myself.
Me too.
I love that you can listen to them while you're doing other things.
Right.
Like, cooking or cleaning or even exercising. It's like a sneaky way to squeeze in extra English practice
Yeah.
without even realizing it.
And podcasts offer such a wide range of topics, so you're bound to find something that interests you.
Totally, yeah.
Whether it's news, comedy, true crime,
Yeah,
even language learning podcasts.
right.
There's a podcast out there for everyone.
Okay, and speaking of listening, let's not forget about audiobooks.
Oh, yeah, audio-based.
They're another fantastic resource for immersing yourself in the language and improving your listening comprehension.
What's great about audiobooks is that you can often find, both the printed and audio versions of a book.
Yeah.
So you can read and listen simultaneously, which can really reinforce your learning.
It's like having a personal tutor reading aloud to you.
Totally.
And you can adjust the playback speed to match your listening level.
Exactly.
So you don't feel overwhelmed.
Right. And many audiobooks are narrated by professional actors.
Yes.
So you get to experience the language in a very engaging and expressive way.
I love that. Okay, so, while all of these resources are amazing for individual learning,
Yeah.
there's something special about connecting with others
Yeah,
who are on that same language learning journey.
absolutely. The guide emphasizes the importance of, finding a language partner or joining an online language learning community.
Yeah, those communities can be such a source of support and motivation.
Yeah.
You can share tips,
Right.
practice your speaking skills, ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
and even make friends from all over the world.
I know, it's amazing.
Right. And it reminds you that you're not alone in this journey.
Right.
Everyone makes mistakes, everyone struggles at times, and everyone has those aha moments
Totally.
where things suddenly click.
Exactly. And celebrating those small victories together can be incredibly motivating.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From the guide's core tips to personalized challenges and even bonus resources. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, go for it.
Learning a language is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the process,
Yeah.
being patient with yourself,
Right.
and finding joy in those, those little moments of discovery.
I couldn't agree more. It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
Exactly.
And every effort you make,
Uh-huh.
no matter how small,
Yeah.
brings you closer to fluency.
So keep those English muscles working, stay curious, and most importantly, have fun.
Until next time, happy learning.